And good morning, and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you are watching us live, we do appreciate that. If you are watching us elsewhere, we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We appreciate you watching or listening there. We do have audio and video versions. Would appreciate a like and a share this morning if you are checking us out. Trying to get the word out about the show, trying to get more people to watch. So we'd appreciate that. If you're checking us out again, give us a like and a share, and drop us a good morning. Good morning to everybody who is joining us so far today. Looks like we're getting up to 4, 5, 6. Here we go. So getting into your show today, traffic looking a lot better than it was yesterday. No accidents as of right now on I-12. You're looking at pretty smooth sailing into Baton Rouge. Now, of course, that's relative. Traffic is moving, but it's not like you're going to fly into Baton Rouge. But again, no accidents on I-12 as of right now. Backups on the on-ramps at Range Avenue, Jubin Road, and 447. So please keep that in mind in your morning commute. Also, minor delays on 64 heading into Central. There's some minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190. And of course, those folks on Dunn Road still getting used to that roundabout at Lockhart. Good morning, Miss Dawn. How are you today? Getting into your weather today, 72 degrees, current temperature, 91 degrees is your high today, 66 your overnight low. You're going to have another sunny one, so it's going to be another beautiful day. Getting into your news today, a unfortunate family-related accident occurred in East Feliciana between two Denham Springs men over the weekend. The younger brother has been arrested. Edward Slavin IV was arrested after his brother, Edward Slavin III, died in a single-car fatal accident. Once Slavin IV was cleared by the hospital, he was arrested. Toxicology reports have been sent off. Slavin III was not properly restrained in the accident. So we're still waiting for another report from the state police on that one. Getting into your legislature this morning. Good, Ms. Dawn, glad to hear it. Getting into your legislature this morning, the House votes. We're getting back into that car insurance thing. If you remember, it started in the Senate. It was SB 418 coming out of Red River, and Mr. Kirk Talbot was the sponsor of that bill. It made it all the way to the governor and then was vetoed for a lot of different reasons. It was amended several times in the House itself. Some of the things that were original to the bill were removed and that sort of thing. And according to the governor, it just wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. It was not guaranteed to lower insurance rates. It was also not guaranteed to help people out in court. So the governor vetoed that. It's now being rebooted in the House. Of course, we're in the midst of a special session with 2 weeks left from today. At midnight on June 30th, they will have to have a budget in place. They're still trying to get some of these other bills passed that were coming through in the regular session. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one fares. According to the governor, he likes this one a little bit better. We'll see if it gets amended as well or if it comes through. Again, that's changing things like this one will require insurance companies to lower their rates by 10%. It will also lower the jury trial threshold. Currently, it's $50,000. That would lower it to somewhere between 5 and 10. The original bill coming out of the Senate lowered it to 5, and then it got bumped to 10, and then it got bumped to 15, and it just kept going back up. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that $5,000 limit on jury trials in place. Of course, there's a separation on this bill. It's very partisan. Democrats say that it's not really going to help the little person, whereas Republicans, especially business owners, say that there's a good chance that it's going to lower insurance rates. So again, a new bill on insurance rates coming out of the House. It's got about 2 weeks to work through the process. So if you'll remember, a bill usually starts in committee and either the Senate or the House moves into that floor. If they pass it in either the House or the Senate, it then goes into committee in the other House and then comes onto that House's floor and then goes up to the governor if it passes there. So it has to go through 4 different hurdles before it makes it up to the governor. Of course, the 4th hurdle for the original Senate bill was the one that got amended. So we'll see what the legislature does with this one. A Senate committee also yesterday passed a bill to form a law enforcement task force. The purpose of this force is training, screening, and de-escalation skills. So their job is going to be doing research and making policy recommendations to both the state as well as local police departments on how to improve training, screening, and de-escalation skills. We're going to be talking to City of Walker and City of Denham Springs, as well as the sheriff over the coming days, asking them about some of the things that they have done in the past few years to work on those types of skills. It still needs, that bill is still going to have to hit the floor. It just passed the Senate committee. Also, for those of you who had been interested, rural broadband continues to sort of make its way through the legislature. Of course, there is a push from the federal level to bring broadband internet to areas that do not have it. We have learned recently through a survey that was filled out by the school board that was used to kind of work with the Louisiana Department of Education to see how well distance learning could be affected, that a lot of people in Livingston Parish do not have access, or at least a lot of students and their families do not have access to internet at home, roughly 25%. Now, the interesting thing is the percentage of kids that have access to a cell phone is much, much greater. It's in the 80s, low 90s. But of course, the internet access is a problem. And with the libraries closed, a lot of those kids were completely sealed off from internet access and that distance learning. This bill would push to try to get some portion of the $10 billion that's being offered by the federal government to try to bring broadband internet to some of the more rural areas in Louisiana. There was a bill that originally came out. Unfortunately, the language, once it reached the governor's office, was in conflict with the federal law and how they were pushing that money, namely some anti-conflict and anti-competition language in there, which of course is illegal. So the governor vetoed that, asked Representative Mizell from the Franklinton area to start over. So it looks like House Bill 10 has the governor's approval as long as it remains unamended. It has begun its journey as well, which we talked about earlier. So it's still got a couple of hurdles to pass, but it does look like this is something that the legislature wants to pass this year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Jumping into some coronavirus and coronavirus-related news. Well, as my throat clogs up on me. 47,172 cases in Louisiana, 2,906 deaths, 37,017 have recovered, 518,000 tests. So we are rolling through those tests. So, you know, the number of new cases versus the number of new tests is getting better every day. So it's percent positivity is what they call it. And they want that to get lower and lower and lower as time goes on. And right now it does look like in Louisiana that's happening. So that's a good reflection of that. 568 are currently hospitalized on 76 ventilators. In Livingston Parish, 546 total cases, 32 deaths on 8,200 tests. Now let's talk about these mitigation efforts real quick. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Don't touch your face. That's the hardest one for me. Control your cough and your sneezing with your elbow or a tissue. 6 feet of distance or more between yourself and others in public. 25 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Stay home if you're sick and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor, and stay home to work if at all possible. The governor has signed a $300 million, I guess you can call it economic stimulus. It is a grant program for businesses with 50 people or less who have been affected by COVID-19. This is part of the money that was sent to the state by the federal government. Now, what the state's looking to do is to shift the money that would normally go to some of the smaller governments into this pool, because the state bore most of the burden of responding to the coronavirus. The legislature believes that that portion, which would have been 45% of the $1.8 billion that was supposed to go to smaller governments, part of that would be better served going to these smaller businesses. And within that $300 million, some of it's carved out for women-owned business, veteran-owned business, but all of them have to be 50. Most of them have to be 50 or less. And good morning, Miss Margaret. Thanks for watching. Mr. Harris, good morning. And yes, that is something that we were going to get to tomorrow. I'm still waiting for some confirmation on the process as it comes out of the legislature. But it is true that the legislature has passed law, and it has been signed, that the state would stay in permanent daylight savings times. The reason I need some more clarification is I'm not entirely sure who at the federal government would approve that. Still trying to get that answer, but it is waiting federal approval. So I guess because of the interaction between the state and the federal government, that has to be approved at that level. But it has been passed at the state level. According to some quotes coming out of the legislature yesterday, they are expecting that the federal government will sign off on that. So we'll see. I hope that answers your question for the time being. Once they get federal approval, it will be permanent. So there will be no fallback and there will be no spring forward. Where we are right now is where we will stay in terms of the way time works. So that's a great question. Anyway, wrapping up that $300 million grants. Not entirely sure what the process is going to look like. We all know how this works. They've passed that. They've signed it. Again, the governor had some reservations, but had eventually got over that. It's going to be interesting to see how they set that up. Of course, now we're going to have to go into approvals from the federal government because it was money sent to the state, and we're going to have to see what the process is, how the state chooses to set that up. With 2 months left in the fiscal year, Denham Springs is actually looking pretty good in terms of their, fiscal health, I guess you can say. Sales taxes are up 2.2% over last year. Now, if you'll remember, sales tax are usually 30 days behind. So right now we only have the picture through April with 2.2% up. We won't really know exactly what their collections are until almost August, but we do know that right now the mayor is very pleased. They're standing on pretty good footing, and they will be looking to try to stay that way for the last 2 months, which would mean at worst you're looking at a wash. But again, 2.2% increase in sales taxes for City of Denham Springs year over year from 2019. A lot of that coming from new car sales, believe it or not. So that is a good sign. Also, they're looking to shore up their financial position by going after old utility debts. Currently, about $650,000 is outstanding for the utility department. The city council still has to approve an amendment to their ordinance, which would allow a third party to come in and collect that debt. Now, the difference is usually when you're doing debt collection, whoever the collector is receives the bulk of the money, and those who were the original collectors, which would be the city, receive pennies on the dollar. In this case, they're looking at companies that will push that fee, I guess you can say, to the consumer. So the consumer would have to pay their outstanding utility bill plus a fee. The fee is how, of course, that company makes money. So it'll be interesting to see who they find and how long it takes. But again, going back to about 2015, $650,000 outstanding. So that sure would help get, I guess you can say that sure would help get that financial situation back shored up. Of course, $650,000 goes a long way in terms of matching grants for things like sidewalk projects or road projects. So or a pedestrian master plan. So we'll keep an eye, see how they do with that program. But first, the city council does have to approve an amendment to their ordinance language that would allow a third party to collect on those debts. So that's the first step. We'll see if that happens. And good morning, Miss Karen. And yes, please do remember to mask up. Remember, we went over those mitigation efforts earlier in the show. We'll go over them one more time here in just a second. But want to talk about Livingston Parish real estate for a second. It looked like even through April that things were going to continue moving pretty well. Looking at a year-over-year comparison to 2019, which was one of the best years in real estate in Livingston Parish ever, 2005 homes sold in Livingston Parish in 2019. And 2020 was looking like it was shaping up to be even better. Then, of course, the coronavirus hit. Now you're looking at, but even through April, looking year over year, the numbers were up compared to 2019. Unfortunately, reality struck and dropped to 158 homes sold in May of 2020, which is down 41. Couple of things to note here. One, 158 is still a very healthy number for a real estate market, especially considering the economic uncertainty from COVID-19. Second thing to remember is a lot of these homes that closed in May, the process was started in April. So we won't necessarily see the big big changes coming through until next month. Maybe it may continue to roll just fine. There are a lot of real estate agents out there that are saying the market is still healthy, market is still moving. We can only hope that that is true. We will see. But again, a drop of 41, so 158 homes sold in May of 2020. The unfortunate statistic is the average home price there, $198,000. It's a drop of $13,000 from the average home price of May 2019. And of course, 2020 was the first year ever where all year long, the average home price remained above $200,000. So we had seen an increase. Now, of course, 198 right there on the cusp of 200. We're going to have to see how the rest of the summer goes. But 2019 was hot. Right now, 2020 kind of slowing down. Through, through June 15th of, through June 15th of this month, 84 homes have closed. Last year in June, 191 homes closed. So even if only doubles, it's still only a drop of 30, considering the economic, what's going on with the economy right now with COVID-19. That's not a bad thing. We're going to have to see how that carries forward over the next couple of months. As many of you know, evictions are starting. Not entirely sure when foreclosures are going to begin again. But the courts have been cleared to begin eviction processes over the next, probably starting about Thursday. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Before we go back into your traffic and weather, I want to remind you of the mitigation efforts as Ms. Karen jumped in and said to wear a mask. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask if at all possible in public. Don't touch your face. The hardest one for me. Control your cough and your sneezing with an elbow or a tissue. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others in public. 25 or less to a gathering, preferably less. Stay home if you're sick and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor, or stay home to work if at all possible. Getting into these statistics one more time, 47,172 coronavirus cases, 2,906 deaths, 37,017 have recovered. 518,000 tests have been performed, so that's good. Again, that percent positivity, which is the number of new cases compared to the number of new tests, is dwindling. So a lot more new tests and a lot fewer new cases of coronavirus, so that's always good. 568 are hospitalized on 76 ventilators. 546 cases in Livingston Parish, 32 deaths, and 8,200 tests. Want to remind folks of your traffic today. It is a better day today. No accidents on I-12 as of right now. It is flowing. You're looking at delays on the on-ramps at Range Avenue, 447, and Jubin Road, so please keep that in mind. Some minor delays at Forage Club Road, River Road, and 190, and some minor delays on 64 heading into Greenville Springs area and Central. You're also looking at some minor delays at Dunn and Lockhart. Those folks still trying to get used to that roundabout. It's currently 72 degrees. 91 degrees is your high today. 66 your overnight low. So it's going to get a little warm today, but it is going to be sunny and a beautiful day. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Please remember that we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We appreciate you liking and sharing this show, trying to get the word out about it. We are coming up on our 1-year anniversary of the morning show. I believe it's next week. We'll get a confirmed date tomorrow. But we are coming up on a year, so that's a cool thing. I've been doing this for a while. Well, not a while. There are plenty of people who've been on camera a lot more than I have. But getting a year under our belt, we've learned a lot. Still trying to improve the show, but would love your help in getting the word out there, getting the word about the show. Also appreciate those of you who commented this morning. It was good trying to get a little interaction with the audience. We are also in print on Thursdays once a week. That's $7 a month. You get that in your mailbox. We're also online, as mentioned, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page that has audio and video versions of these shows, as well as our long-form podcast, which is where I sit down and interview people. We also have a coronavirus page, which is free. We do hope you have a great day. Please try to stay cool as it gets warm out there, and we will see you tomorrow morning.